Good afternoon. Are you Robin Haycock?
Yes, I am, sir.
All right, we'll be with you in just a moment. I brought Mr. Chanot in from the jail by Zoom. Our first case is Jessica Utter, and it's 113. And we do have the record on. We're live on YouTube. And I might as well bring Mr. Chanot in also. Hi, do we have anybody here for landlord tenant? Looking for Jessica Utter or Courtney Potts? All right, thanks.
No, sir.
All right.
What's going on, Robin?
How's it going, man?
Hard times, man. Trying to get up out of here, get you some of your more of that money.
I feel you, man.
That she gave you like 2,000, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically that's what I was just telling him, it was a pay or stay, and we had talked about it already. So I don't know.
Well, the
I
problem
should
is
be out
it
here
wasn't a
tomorrow.
pay or stay. It's a termination of tenancy,
Oh,
but we got to talk about that. All right, it is 1:15. Mr. Chanot's case isn't set until 1:35. The first case set is Robin Haycock versus C.K. Haycock versus Jessica Utter for a property at 18169 South River Road. Ms. Utter is not here. Termination of tenancy, notice to quit was served on Ms. Utter on November 14th. She was personally served with that. And from what I understand, there's no lease here, but you took this property over from a previous owner. Is that correct, Mr. Haycock?
Yes. And we had a verbal month-to-month lease.
Who did you
Agreed
buy the
upon.
property from?
I inherited it from my grandparents.
When was that?
I was put on the contract or the trust in 2017.
Who are your grandparents?
Louise Haycock and Irvin Haycock.
All right, how long had Miss Utter been there since then?
No. Miss Utter has just recently moved in at August of this year, or of 2022.
All right, I would strongly suggest that you join the St. Joe County Landlords Association. They've got a tight-knit group of local landlords, not the corporate landlords, but the small individual landlords like you. They help each other with things, and you should have a lease. There's no reason why you should have a quote-unquote oral lease. You should have a real lease that protects you and protects her. This is filed as a termination of tenancy, requesting that she move. She was personally served by Sergeant Morse. Is she still there?
Yes. Currently, for the last month, she's been having other people stay there. Her mother-in-law seems to be staying there now.
Well, this is Jessica Utter and all occupants. She's not here. So she's subject to default. She has 10 days to move. Today is the 13th of March. She has until March 23rd to move, or she's subject to being evicted.
All right.
After March 23rd, which is a Thursday, if she doesn't move, you can bring $15 to the courthouse and ask for a writ of eviction where the sheriff comes, puts her stuff out on the street.
All right.
Now, we need to let the clock tick for Miss Potts to get here on Mr. Mr. Chanot's matter, but Jessica Utter was personally served. She isn't here.
We can, if you don't mind, we can go on and wait on Miss, because Miss Potts, she just got into a car accident a couple days ago. And she doesn't have a vehicle right now.
All right, well, she could zoom in, so we'll see. I'll set it aside. We do have another case set for 125, and then that one's 135. But while we're waiting, Mr. Chanot, I will go ahead and advise you of your rights as a tenant in a landlord-tenant proceeding. As a defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including non-payment of rent, termination of tenancy, land contract forfeiture, or other premises actions, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to obtain counsel for representation in this matter. If you cannot afford an attorney, a legal aid attorney may be available to help you. You have a right to a trial by a jury or by the court. If the action is for non-payment of rent, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services or some other agency could be available to assist you, but he has filed this as a demand for termination of tenancy. We're going to talk about that. Because when you file a termination of tenancy, you're not supposed to accept any rent.
And we just gave him $2,000.
Yeah, well, that's a problem for him. At any rate, if the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Services, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If both parties are agreeable to mediation, the court can help set that up. If you reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above but have the following additional rights. The judgment may not be enforced until 3 business days had passed. You could move to set aside the judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set for a landlord-tenant hearing. However, if the judge does not find in your favor, the original judgment would stand.
Excuse me.
Yes?
We can go on with the proceedings, and I can let Brandy, Miss Potts know what's going on when I call or whatever, because I don't think she's going to be able to make it.
All right, well, let's talk about this. This is filed as a termination of tenancy action, Mr. Heathcox. There's 2 ways to do this. One is to ask for back rent, non-payment of rent. The other is to move to terminate the tenancy. Is this the house where 14 people got arrested in February?
No.
This was you guys got arrested in.
No, I wasn't. No, this is not that address.
All right, so it's a different address.
I don't live at that address. I don't know how that address keeps popping up on my paperwork.
All right, but this is 18149 South River Road, correct?
Yes.
What was the house where the bust was?
That's 18309. That's Princeton's house. That's down the street.
Okay, different.
I don't know how that address keeps popping up on my name.
Okay, I don't know.
I had nothing to do with that. I was here before that. Oh, wow.
Why did you, is that, all right, in this case, he alleges that $7,800 of rent is unpaid, but he didn't file it as a termination of tenancy, I mean, as an unpaid rent. So once you file a termination of tenancy action, Mr. Hathcox, you're not supposed to accept any rent. There's a famous case called the Park Forest case. If it's filed as a non-payment of rent, you can accept rent, but you can't do it both ways. By according to this, you filed an action to ask me to ask them to move out. And that notice to quit was served on them back in December.
So at that point, would I not be able to collect back rent either?
Correct. Not till the case is done. If you file it as a termination of tenancy, you're trying to kick them out. So you don't say, pay me my rent, and by the way, I'm gonna kick you out. You have to kick them out and then pursue the rent. So you're not, A, you don't have a lease, B, you're not doing this right. And the lease protects the tenant, but it also protects you.
Yeah,
So,
well, me and Mr. Shranat, we did have a
We
lease.
have a lease.
well, I don't have a copy of it.
Then it expired and then it went to a month to month.
Month to month.
All right, well, the lease is supposed to be filed with the court, so you really are struggling here. Expired or not, the lease is to be filed with the clerk, with the court. The law requires I adjourn this 1 week. If there was an attorney involved in this, they'd ask that it be dismissed. And that I might do that. Dismiss it and tell you to start over with, do it right. If you want him to pay the rent, you file it as a demand for non-payment of rent. If you want him to move out, you file it as a termination of tenancy. And you need to enclose a copy of the lease.
All right, I understand.
That's why I encourage that you join the local landlords association. They've got sample leases. They're good to give advice about how to do things. Or you should hire an attorney to help you.
So can I ask Robin a question?
Yes?
Robin, so what do you want her to do? Because I can let her know. I'm not being like Jessica, man. You know, me and you, we talk about this. So I would just like to know what you want me to do.
Well, how much is the rent per month?
$1,000 a month.
You agree with that, Mr. Hathcox?
Yes, it's $1,000 a month.
Due on what day?
First.
On the first with a 5-day grace period.
So Robin, what do you want her to do? Let me know.
Well, I'm still just trying to figure out with the judge with the money situation.
All right.
Okay.
Let me repeat. You filed this action, you didn't file a copy of the lease. So I don't know what the terms or conditions of the lease are. You're alleging that he violated the lease and you wish to terminate it. You don't even need to state a reason if it's just a month-to-month lease. If you file it as a termination of tenancy and you accept rent, it removes your ability to ask for a termination of tenancy.
Yeah, see, I
Also-
understand that with my other tenant, with Jessica, that's what I was doing. I was not accepting current rent. I guess I was thinking that I would still be able to accept back pay rent.
No, see, you don't know what you're doing. You're a plaintiff in a legal case and you're bound by the rules of evidence and procedure. And there's a specific set of rules for landlord tenant law. And so you are the one that started the case and you have to follow the rules and you don't know what they are. So you could use some legal help or at least join the Landlord Tenants Association. But we're going to wait. What I'm probably going to do is dismiss this case and have you start over again, decide whether you want them to pay the rent or you want them to move. But I'm gonna shift gears for a minute. Let's find out who Samsung SMA is.
It's me, Mr. Middleton,
What's your name?
Jessica May. My phone
All
is
right,
acting
Miss.
crazy, so
All right, you're late for your case. I already gave you a default. We'll have to come back to it. Do you go by May or Utter, Jessica? Jessica, can you hear me?
yeah, my phone is acting crazy. I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Are you in a moving car?
Yeah, well, I'm in my car, but I'm sitting still in the driveway.
All right, just a moment. I'm gonna deal with another case. We got issues with yours. We already did it for one thing, 10 minutes ago, but we'll.
Okay.
All right, we are gonna take up the matter of Votes Inc. All right, you can't proceed without the defendant if they're not personally served. This is a bad deal for that seller. They're in the house under the color of the land contract, but they're not paying anything. All right, let's go back to Mr. Chanel and then we'll deal with Miss May, who's late to the party. All right, there's several problems with Mr. Chanel's case. One, it's filed as a termination of tenancy action, and the plaintiff has accepted payment since the filing of the action. Two, he has not filed a copy of the lease with the court. And three, he's working out some sort of repayment agreement with the defendant. Ms. Potts is not here.
I'm the actual lease, the first person on lease stuff, so I can take fault for everything.
All right. Now, you said she was in an automobile accident?
Yeah, she told her she was in an automobile accident like day before yesterday going on her way to work. Robin probably seen the van sitting outside the house.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
And that would have been on 3/11. All right, I'm gonna dismiss this case and you can start over again. Well, you can either decide to work out an agreement with him or you can start over again and decide whether you want it as a non-payment of rent case or a termination of tenancy case. But you've undermined your termination of tenancy case by accepting rent.
Now, so would I do then the non-payment of rent and not a recover possession of property?
Yes, and then that's called pay or stay. You pay the rent or pay or don't stay, I guess. Or move. And then they can pay on the rent. But with a termination of tenancy, you're simply asking them to move.
I understand.
Robin, we'll give you a call, okay? Is that cool?
All right.
All right.
All right, I'm dismissed by the court without prejudice. Meaning it can be rebrought, but a couple suggestions. You could use a lawyer to help you with this, but if you're gonna do it yourself, you need to understand what the rules are. And again, I would encourage you to contact Terry Richmond, who is one of the heads of the local landlord tenant group, and they would be very helpful to you. How many properties do you have?
Did you say Terry Richmond?
Yeah, do you know Terry and Larry Richmond?
No, I'm not familiar, but I'll give them a call.
Or other locals. I think Mr. Larkin is in there. The Larges are in there. A lot of the small landlords are in it. It's a good group and they try to follow the rules and They share information about tenants that maybe stiffed them.
And what was the name? The St. Joseph.
County Landlords Association.
Landlord Association.
All right, thank you, Judge.
All right, accepted rent. And no lease in file.
Robert, have you spoke with Brandy?
Just not just briefly.
Okay, because I think I can call. I think she said something about the people that called her back about what we had talked about.
Yeah.
I think that's the ball rolling on that one. But once I get back, I can give her a call. I can give you a call too, and we can talk about it from there.
All right.
All right.
Now, let's further comment on this. Mr. Chanot is in jail and he's facing some firearm charges and some other matters. It's undetermined at this point when he's going to get out. So that may affect your decisions, and it certainly affects his ability to pay the rent. You can agree to work out some sort of agreement with them and not even refile the matter. But if you're going to try to get them to pay the rent or move, you need to decide which kind of action you're going to file, and you need to file a copy of the lease with it. So
All right.
I'm dismissing this case without prejudice. You know where to find Mr. Chanot. I don't think you just call him up. I guess you can, or do visitation, but he's sort of at the mercy of the sheriff. Mr. Chanot, you have a court date tomorrow, don't you?
Yes, tomorrow I'm trying to get my probation holder with and make a bond so I can do. Yeah.
All right, I'll be seeing you tomorrow on that case.
Oh,
All right.
Okay.
You're good to go.
All right.
All right. See you, Rob.
All right. I'll give you a call, Robin.
All right.
All right. Let's talk to Miss Utter, Miss May. Jessica, could you come back?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you turn your camera on?
Yeah, I was smoking a cigarette, but let's see, how do I do it? Oh. I'm not sure how to turn it. Oh, there it is.
All right. You were on for a second. Here we go. I need you to put your cigarette out if you would.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to take a minute here and advise you of your rights as a tenant in a landlord-tenant proceeding. As a defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including non-payment of rent or termination of tenancy, and this is filed as a termination of tenancy, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to obtain counsel for representation in this matter. If you cannot afford an attorney, a legal aid attorney may be available to help you. You have a right to a trial by a jury or by the court. If the action is for non-payment of rent, you could be eligible for some assistance, but this is not that type of case. It's a termination of tenancy case. If the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Services, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If both parties are agreeable to mediation, the court can help set that up if you contact us. If you reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above but have the following additional rights. The judgment could not be enforced until 3 business days had passed. You could move to set aside the judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set for a landlord-tenant hearing, but if the judge did not find in your favor, the original judgment would stand. So Mr. Haithcock filed this as a request to terminate your tenancy. I'm not sure he knows what he's doing, but he filed a notice to quit, that's sideways, says you owe $300 rent. The date of that is 11/14 of 22. So that looks like a demand for non-payment of rent. But then he filed a complaint to terminate your tenancy on January the 9th. And then that was served on you, and the matter is set for hearing today. So how much is the rent, Mr. Heathcock? All right, Jessica, what do you think the rent is?
Well, I pay $250 a month, and honestly, Your Honor, the only reason why I haven't paid is because he told me he wasn't accepting any money from me.
Yeah, I haven't been
Really?
accepting money from her.
So the only reason I'm behind is because he wasn't accepting. I was
All
sick
right, well,
and
he
wasn't
wants
able
you to move. What kind of premises is this?
Yeah,
Is it
I'm
a
not
house?
looking. I'm
It's
not
a
looking for any
duplex.
money at this point. I'm not looking
Yeah,
for
you're
any money.
just
I'm just
asking.
looking.
That's
All
not
right.
what he asked. So it's a duplex. I live on one side. They're both 1 bedrooms. And when I moved into the apartment, it wasn't inhabitable. So I completely fixed it up to where it looks amazing now, actually. And he then one day called me and said that if I let my husband come home or if I didn't clean my yard, I would have to move in with my mother-in-law. I ignored that. I let my husband come home, and he then served me with a notice. At that time, I had been sick because there's no furnace in the apartment, period. I had been heating with my stove, and I told him that I was going to be a few days late because I didn't work the week before, so I was waiting for my check to come. And he told me he wasn't taking any more money. I don't have a problem paying my rent. I pay all my bills, but now he's deemed that I'm a squatter.
Well, you're
We
not a
we have.
squatter, but stop. You
Oh,
don't
sorry.
have a lease. Mr. Heathcock, you're gonna be in the landlord business. You need to figure out what you're doing. Do you have a lease, or did you ever have a lease,
No,
Jessica?
no, sir. No, sir. It was all verbal.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
verbal.
A verbal lease is not worth the paper it's not written on. All right, now, so do you agree rent is $250? Mr. Heathcock,
Yes.
that's quite low. Who's living there now, Miss May?
I still live there, but Sheila, my mother-in-law, she's staying with me because we're trying to fix her house because it got condemned. Short notice. I'm sure you're aware of all the situation that's been going on. The house
That's
is,
at 303 Middle Street.
yes, sir. The house, we've gotten most of it done, but I've been spending night and day working on this place. Like, I'm barely sleeping just to try and get her back in her home.
All right, is your husband there?
Yes, yes. He's been with me at that apartment since the beginning.
And what's his name?
James.
All right. All right,
And
we've got
Judge,
several. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Heathcock.
oh, I was just gonna say I've had multiple citations from the county about trash and junk
That's
from their place.
not just my place, Your Honor. It's a duplex, and
It's
the
a
tenants next
duplex
door.
from both, but still her place, and
I
there's
spent all
still
night.
trash out there.
Stop,
Not,
stop.
there's
We're in a
not. There's
courtroom.
not.
If you were here, you would be more polite and respectful. Only one person can speak at a time. Now, she says the furnace does not work.
There is no
If the
furnace.
furnace doesn't work, she doesn't have to pay any rent. It violates the covenant of habitability. If she has a furnace that doesn't work and she's living there with no heat, the county would condemn it. Who's in the other half of the duplex?
Harry
Carrie,
Ballard.
there's not a furnace in either apartment.
Is
No,
Mr.
there's no.
McGee in the other side with her?
Yes.
There's electric heating
No, there's not.
in Carrie's, yes.
All right, so you're trying to terminate the tenancy on a property that's probably got habitability issues. You can't rent a home that doesn't have a furnace in it. This was in the city limits. You wouldn't be able to rent it. It would be inspected. So she stopped paying the rent, which is correct. You're asking to terminate her tenancy. You're asking her to move. But since you don't have a lease, you don't have any conditions on the lease. You don't say your husband can't move in, your mother-in-law
Well,
can't.
that's not what happened.
That is
It
what happened.
it was
All right, go ahead.
It was my knowledge that with under Michigan law with the verbal 30-day lease that I could just quit after 30 days. And
Well, you got it sort of half right. There is no such thing as a verbal 30-day lease. Maybe it's something else, but I don't know if it's a lease. But yes, after 30 days, you can move to terminate the tenancy, which is what you're doing here. She's arguing that the place is not she's arguing that it wasn't rentable in the first place, and she expended money of her own to make it habitable. But the
that's
bottom
not,
line, Miss May, is if he doesn't want you as a tenant and you don't have a lease, no matter what the circumstances are, he can get you to move. And he served a notice to quit on you some weeks ago, back in November 14th. So the law requires that I adjourn this for 1 week. Now, tell me about, I'm gonna drive past it. I have driven past it
I
every
wish you would,
Thursday.
I wish you would stop and look at it. I have pictures showing you what the place looked like from the beginning.
and then Judge, if you drive past it,
And
please look at the riverfront and look at all the trash
the,
they have left.
the riverfront doesn't have anything to do with me, Your Honor. The riverfront, see, Mr. McGee is a scrapper, and I've cleaned the yard multiple times beyond or behind the neighbors, because Mr. McGee's not there, and I didn't want him to be in trouble for something if he's not there to take care of it, first of all. Second of all, Carrie doesn't get up and do anything. And if you look outside of her apartment today, there's trash piled up right there by the door. I was there last night. I'm there every day.
Yeah, it's not good, but for
Judge-
you, Miss Utter, now the problem, your problem is your mother-in-law's house has been condemned, so you haven't got anywhere to go. But at some point, he's gonna get you out of here, and you have no lease. And so it leaves you without very much protection. And I think I know which place it is, and it looks like somebody dropped a bomb on it.
Okay, imagine.
Mr. McGee and Miss Ballard have been there for some time, and I don't want to talk about them. They're not here
Right.
to defend themselves, but let's just say they've got their own struggles. I'm gonna continue this until 2/20, March 20th. At 2:20. Now, if he gets what he asked for, you would have 10 days from that day to move out. And I advise you of your right to contact legal aid or other counsel. The bottom line is you have no lease, which puts you in a weak position. But he has no lease either. So you're there, rent is quite low. You can't find anything that's not subsidized for $250 a month.
Correct.
But if it's full of trash and it has no furnace, you should want to move anyway. The problem is there's nowhere to move to. If they uncondemn your mother-in-law's house, perhaps they can go back there. But as you mentioned, there were multiple problems at that address.
Yes, sir.
Your uncle was there and he died, and it was all just not good. And anyway, we'll address this further, but there's several issues. One, there's no lease. Two, there's an allegation that the premises violates the covenant of habitability by having no working furnace. Three, the defendant says that she has rehabilitated the place sufficiently so she could live there. What are you using for heat?
I have 2 electric heaters that I've been using since I was sick for like 2 months, and I decided that the stove wasn't the best way to go.
Well, if I knew you were heating the stove, I would move you out today. That's a recipe for burning the house down.
Yeah, I was honestly using the stove.
In a small premises with bad wiring. This is dangerous.
It is.
And does the water work?
Yeah, the water works. But I'm glad you said electricity, because the back bedroom electrical, like the light or nothing works. There's things that I haven't been able to get fixed yet that I've been working on, but then this happened. And again, the only reason why my rent isn't paid is because he told me he wasn't taking any money. Like,
Well, once he files a termination of tenancy, he's not supposed to take any money. Mr. Haycock, you're making me dizzy if you just sort of land
Oh,
in one
sorry.
spot.
Sorry about
if that one, the one that you have has been paid. He actually gave me a second one.
Well, the bottom line is there's no lease, which doesn't really protect either of you, but he served a notice to quit. He wants you to move. At this point, he's not asking for the money. He's asking you to move. After you do move, then we can fight about money. And there's something called abatement of rent. You don't have to pay full price rent for a property that has no furnace and all the rooms don't work electrically. As I said, if this house were in the city limits of Three Rivers, you wouldn't be able to rent it. One, you couldn't have that much trash in front of it. And B, you have to have a working furnace in it.
Yeah,
You can't
Judge,
heat it with a
There's no
gas
furnace.
stove.
There hasn't been a furnace since I moved in, and because I moved in the
Judge.
summertime, it wasn't an
Yes.
issue.
All right. Yes, Mr. Heathcock?
Once again, just a few weeks ago, her husband was caught on the riverfront burning trash. And I've had multiple citations from the city. So even though
That's
she's
not
telling you
true.
she's rehabilitated,
All right,
they are,
it's not from the city, it's from the township.
oh yes, from the township, sorry. Yes, and there's still all trash outside.
Well, I'll take a look at it on Thursday. But Miss May,
Yes, sir.
to get what he asked for, and you're gonna have to move. So
Yes, I
we're gonna
understand
address
that.
this 7 days from today, March 20th at 2:20 PM. And if he gets what he asked for, you would have 10 days from that day to move. Mr. Hathcock, again, I strongly encourage you to either get some legal advice or join the Landlord Tenants Association. You also run the risk of having this house condemned. Lockport Township's pretty aggressive on their zoning enforcement. Anyway, we'll address it further once again by Zoom next Monday at 2:20 PM.
Judge, is there
Thank you.
anything else that that you would need me to work on between these days?
Not for these two cases. The other one, you can decide whether you want to start over again.
All right.
In this case, I would no, we'll just deal with it. I don't like the fact there's no electricity in the back bedroom, and I don't like the fact she's using 2 electric space
Yeah.
heaters. You're gonna
When
burn
she-
this house down.
When she moved in, the electricity in the back room was working.
That's not true.
Well, it's not now, and you're the landlord, and you're responsible for it.
This is my first time hearing about the electricity in the back room not working, sir.
Well, they have to put you on notice if there is a problem.
Yes, I've not been noticed for that.
All right, what am I seeing over your shoulder,
Me?
Miss May? That looks like a
Oh,
blower.
This is my friend's house.
Oh, you're not at your house?
No, I was actually up working on the house and lost track of time. Like I said, I work from the time I wake up to the time I fall out every day trying to get Sheila's house back in order. So my phone wasn't working right down there. I came over here and hooked up to her Wi-Fi.
Very good. All right, you do the same thing next Monday. I'll see you then.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a great week.
Okay, thank you.
Something behind me.
Mr. Hathcock, let me give you a name here.
Yes, hello?
This matter is set for 2:20. It's 2:21. Let's see. This order was here last time.
Oh, and Judge, also, excuse me, but the number that I was given in the mail for Terry Richmond,
Is Jessica Utter here? Jessica May? All right, thank you. Bye. I guess I can give it to you. I didn't want to give it over the life. but Miss, she's not in the conference room. All right. This matter is entitled Robin Hathcock versus Jessica Utter, also known as Jessica May, and all others, for a property at 18169 South River Road. I had asked Mr. Hathcock to get some better info, better lease, that sort of thing. We'll work on that. This was filed as a termination of tenancy. There is no lease. Ms. Utter testified that there had been several issues. The property was condemned by the township. Mr. Hathcock inherited this from his grandparents. I knew them. Anyway, this house, I think, needs to be redone, get all the junk carried out of there. And are they still there?
Yes, and your honor, I was I don't believe this house was condemned. It's the house that Sheila, Jessica's mom, was staying at that is condemned.
Okay, I'm sorry. My notes.
And
yeah, you're right.
And then
mother's house. Yeah, that's the house on Middle Street. Yes, that's right.
And then also the number that was given in the mail for Terry Richmond, it seemed like it was not connected anymore. And I was not able to find any contact for the St. Joe landlord association online.
Looking for it. All right. I want you to email me a message to 3bcivil@stjosephcountymi.org. And then I will forward to the Richmonds and Larry Kreitz and the other people involved in the Landlords Association.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. No one appears. Is she still there?
Yes.
All right. Well, there is no lease, and this is a. Are you also moving to evict the people on the other side or just this side?
Yeah, the people on the other side, they're just going to leave. I won't have to go through this eviction process because yes, my plan is to redo the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it could use it. All right, I'm gonna find by default, the plaintiffs have 10 days to move, which is March 30th. The defendants have 10 days to move. March 30th is 10 days from today. It's still within the same calendar month. No money judgment is entered, but if they do not vacate, you can bring $15 to the courthouse and file for a writ of eviction, where the sheriff's agent will physically put them out.
And that is after 10 days?
Correct, after the 30th of March. I'd come on Friday, March 31st.
All right.
All right, if you send me that email, I'll get you the address for the Three Rivers Landlords Association.
All right, thank you very much, Judge.
Well, we need more affordable housing, so I hope you do get this fixed up and put both sides out on the market, where people certainly need a place to live, but you don't want them trashing your property. All right,
Yeah.
you're good to go, and I will send you that default judgment in the mail.
All right, thank you very much, Your Honor.
Miss May, can you hear me? Miss May, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
All right, you're late to your own party. I called this case at 2:20 when it was scheduled and you logged in at 2:27. Mr. Hathcock had just hung up by the time you showed up. I made a finding that you had 10 days to move out or you're subject to being evicted. There is no lease here. He's not asking for any money. He's simply asking you to move. Mr. McGee and Miss Ballard are gonna apparently move on the other side and he's gonna gut and redo this property. Anyway, you were late, but I don't know that would have changed anything. There is no lease. He wants you to move. You have 10 days to move or you're subject to being evicted. Have you tried to find another place to go?
Yeah, but all my money has been going into fixing my mother-in-law's house, so I'm kind of limited to my options.
Well, you have 10 days to vacate this property. Do not pay any more money. Just make arrangements to get your things out, or he's probably going to seek to evict you on the 31st of March.
Okay.
All right, I'll send you
So
that.
I have one question before you hang up on me. When we went to court the first time, you said that he shouldn't have even been renting the place because it never had a furnace in it. So doesn't that mean that he should be giving me my money back?
Well, you can sue him in small claims court for that. This is only about possession of the property.
Okay.
All right, you're good to go.
All right. Thank you.